Good afternoon, friends. Okay, so there's a Chabad center in Alaska, as there are many around the world, in the most interesting of places, run by the Greenberg family, Rabbi and Rebbe Greenberg. And Rabbi Greenberg tells a story that happened many years ago. At the time, he was asked to come to a local public school and to share with the locals a little bit about Judaism and, the traditions and all. And, there are not many Jews in Alaska, so he was definitely a minority, and most of the students had never met a Jew. And it was interesting for them to, I don't know what they were learning about at the time, but it was interesting for them to, meet a Jew and hear about the religion. So Rabbi Greenberg came in and he spoke about the traditions, the religion, the beauty and all of that. And he finished and he said, does anybody have any comments or questions? And, some students had questions, and one girl raised her hand and said, no question, just comment. I'm Jewish and I have never met another Jew, and it's so cool to meet a rabbi. And Rabbi Greenberg thought to himself, what can I tell her that will be impressionable to her for the rest of her life? Something that she will remember, that will be ingrained within her. And so this is what he told her. He said, listen, every Friday before sundown, 18 minutes before sundown, starting from the dateline, God watches how home after home after home lights the Friday night candles, says the blessing, prays for their loved ones, and he goes from country to country, from city to city, from place to place around the dateline, watching how everybody brings in the Shabbat, and how everybody celebrates it, and how everybody makes the Kiddush. Some go to synagogue, how some sit around with their families, but most importantly, when they light that beautiful candle and light that light. And then he comes to the last place on earth to bring in the Shabbat. And that's Alaska. And Rabbi Greenberg tells this girl, and God is waiting for you. The last place on earth to light that last Shabbat candle. He's waiting for your flame. Friends, this is a tradition that Jewish people, specifically women, have been doing since the beginning of time. In fact, this dates back to one of the matriarchs, right? There's 3 patriarchs and there's 4 matriarchs, and one of the matriarchs was Rivka. She's the second matriarch, and it's told how when Abraham and Sarah, right? They had sent their servant to go find a wife for their son Isaac, Yitzchak, and one of the signs that they knew that she would be the right wife for Yitzchak and a future matriarch for the Jewish people was that when she lit her flame Friday night, her flame lasted a whole week. And that was a miracle that had happened to the first matriarch, Sarah. And Rebecca had been doing this since she was 3 years old. And since then, the tradition is that Jewish women light their candles starting from the age of 3, or when they're old enough to understand what they're doing. So mothers and girls have been doing this forever. And what's interesting is that women have made this mitzvah mostly theirs because men can also light, but it's become the woman's mitzvah because we have decided on our own to take in this mitzvah 18 minutes before sunset. We want to bring in the light earlier. When you're excited about something, you can't wait, right? You want to do it already. And that's the feeling that Jewish women have had. And so that's something that just became tradition, where Jewish women bring in the candles 18 minutes before. And 18, by the way, is chai, life. So there's a lot of significance to that. What's interesting, though, is that during the World Wars, right? World War I, World War II, that tradition of girls lighting candles too, for many communities ceased to exist. And that is because it was hard to get across candles and all the materials needed. So women would light for their husbands themselves, sometimes for their children, but their kids wouldn't light. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe after the war, where there was so much depression and anxiety and destruction. He said, let's bring in more light. Let's continue that tradition that has almost been forgotten. Let's have our daughters from the age of 3, let them light those candles too. Let's bring that back. Let's bring in more light in a world that is full of destruction and suffering. Let's bring in more light. And so you'll find in Chabad communities, girls from the age of 3 will light candles, and in many other communities it has become something that many have taken upon themselves, and it's such a beautiful mitzvah. And what's interesting is when we say the blessing, we say Baruch Ata Hashem. I'm not going to say God's name now because I'm not making the blessing. Elokeinu melech haolam asher kidishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzilanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. And the words, what that means is that we are blessing God and saying that you sanctify me when I light these candles. It's a fascinating concept, right? When we light those candles, we're not just physically lighting a candle, which is beautiful, the concept's beautiful, but we're accomplishing something so powerful. We are not only connecting with God, because when God commands us or really gives us a mitzvah, it's a way of connecting to Him. We're connecting infinite and finite. But what we're doing is we're taking a physical candle, right? Which we could divide it like this. The fire part, the flame, represents the soul. And the reason that the flame many times in the Torah is considered like the soul is because it's always vying upwards. It's always going upwards. No matter which direction you turn the candle, it will always go upwards. And it's held down on this earth by a wick, by the candle, by the wax. That holds it down. It anchors it. And that's an important lesson for us, because we need to remember that this world is made up of spirituality and physicality. And although they seem to contradict, they can work in unison. They can work together. They can be one whole, one entity. And when you combine the two and you take your physicality and you imbue it with spirituality, you make your physicality meaningful. You make materialism a meaningful thing, not just something that's like in vain, right? And that's such a powerful thing. The tradition of lighting candles started, like we said, from Sarah, but it also was something that was done because Shabbat's a day of rest, a day of unity, a family time. And, back in the day, they didn't have electricity. And if you can't light a fire on Shabbat, which is one of those things that we're not supposed to do, then it's going to be dark. And when there's darkness, people can stumble on each other. It could just bring fights and disunity, and that's not the point. So we make sure to light the candle before Shabbat, and that ensures that there's unity and peace in the home. Friends, specifically ladies, when you light those candles and you say the blessing, you are accomplishing something so great, so holy. You're connecting with the infinite on so many levels. It's a tradition that is so beautiful, so easy, and it's so meaningful. Pass it on to your girls. And know that even though it seems like it's just one physical act, you're actually bringing down spirituality into this world. And the impact you're going to have on your daughters and your family is so great and so powerful. So don't forget to bring in that light. I think especially in these times where there's a lot of goodness, but there's also suffering, it's so important to just, bring goodness. We just finished Holocaust Memorial Day. Let's bring light into this world. Let's bring goodness. And let's also not forget that if anybody in our community here in Loudoun, in the greater community, needs any help, we are here to help in any way. If you check out jewishloudoun.com /COVID-19, COVID-19, there's resources there. If you'd like to volunteer to help an elder or senior or someone immunocompromised, to shop for them. If you are immunocompromised or elderly or whatever it is, we can have volunteers to go shop for you, and many other really good resources. Check it out. And tonight we are having a weekly Torah portion class. Super interesting, always interactive, always a lesson that is down to earth that you can apply to your life. So email us if you'd like to join. We do it via Zoom. And wishing you all a lovely and luminous day.